I will not tolerate such behaviour. If you want to go out now, but if you stand again, I will order you out. Make your mind up. Either shut up and get out.
This didn't break slowly, it detonated. One ruling, 9 judges, and suddenly the man at the top of British politics was exposed under the harshest light imaginable. No warning, no escape. Just a Supreme Court decision that sent shockwaves through Westminster and pushed the United Kingdom into full political meltdown. What you're about to hear isn't rumour or spin. It's the moment power cracked and the country watched its leadership unravel in real time. The Supreme Court's verdict landed like a hammer. Unanimous, no dissent, pages of findings laid bare a pattern that Britain had never seen attached so directly to a sitting Prime Minister. Starmer wasn't just criticised, he was exposed. Financial links hidden in plain sight. Decisions made behind closed doors, connections between donors, offshore structures and government contracts that raised one brutal question. Who was this government really serving? The court didn't use dramatic language, but it did not need to. The facts spoke loudly enough. Within minutes, the mood in Westminster shifted from control to panic. Ministers stopped answering calls. Advisers rushed through corridors, clutching files. What had once been confidence turned into silence, and that silence screamed guilt. As the news spread, the country reacted instantly. Markets trembled. The pound slipped. Broadcasters cut into programming as headlines changed by the second. Starmer exposed. Government in crisis. Supreme Court shakes Britain. This wasn't opposition theatre or media exaggeration. This was the legal system stepping in where politics had failed. MPs gathered in emergency meetings, but there was no unity, only fear. Some demanded answers, others demanded resignation. Many simply stared at their phones, watching public anger explode online. Hashtags surged into the millions within hours. Britons didn't argue anymore. They accused. Inside Parliament, the atmosphere turned toxic. Shouting drowned out procedure. Calls of resign echoed across the chamber. Allies who once defended Starmer now avoided his name entirely. The front benches thinned as figures quietly disappeared from view. The government wasn't governing. It was surviving minute by minute. Outside, crowds gathered with signs, flags and fury. This wasn't a protest driven by policy or party loyalty. It was driven by betrayal. People felt lied to, ignored and exposed to consequences they didn't choose. The court had spoken and the public decided it was time to enforce the verdict politically. Starmer himself said nothing. No address, no statement, no apology. In politics, silence can sometimes calm a storm. This time, it poured fuel on it. Every unanswered question became proof in the court of public opinion. Every hour without explanation made the situation worse. Commentators called it paralysis. Critics called it cowardice. Even neutral voices admitted this was no longer a standard scandal. It was a collapse of credibility at the very top. Britain wasn't watching a leader fight back. It was watching a leader disappear while still technically in power. By the end of the day, the damage was irreversible. International observers raised concerns. Investors pulled back. Party insiders began preparing for life after Starmer, whether he admitted it or not. The Supreme Court hadn't removed him from office, but it had stripped him of authority. And without authority, leadership becomes an illusion. The UK now stands in a dangerous pause, a moment where the old order has fallen, but nothing stable has replaced it yet. This isn't just another headline, this is the beginning of a reckoning, and the fallout is only just getting started. As night fell, the situation didn't cool down. It escalated. Westminster became a pressure cooker with no release valve. Emergency meetings ran into the early hours, but nothing productive came out of them. There was no plan, no unified response, no leader willing to step forward and take control. Behind closed doors, MPs whispered about damage control, not governance. Phones kept ringing, unanswered. Messages went unread. The government wasn't just divided, it was frozen by fear. Leaked texts from inside Number 10 painted a grim picture. Advisers arguing, senior figures blaming each other, and a Prime Minister isolated inside his own office. Furious but powerless. The authority that once held the system together had evaporated. leaving chaos in its place. By morning, the consequences were impossible to ignore. Betting markets flipped overnight, predicting a snap election with alarming certainty. Polls showed public trust collapsing at record speed. Even voters who once supported Starmer openly said they felt deceived. This wasn't about left or right anymore. It was about honesty versus corruption. Across Britain, workplaces paused as people gathered around screens watching live coverage. News anchors spoke in measured tones, but the message was clear. This was uncharted territory. Comparisons to historic crises flooded the airwaves, but analysts admitted none truly fit. This wasn't Watergate. This wasn't Brexit. This was something uniquely British and uniquely dangerous, a constitutional breakdown unfolding without a clear exit. Inside the House of Commons, order collapsed completely. When Parliament reconvened, it felt less like a legislature and more like a courtroom without a judge. Opposition figures didn't hold back. Accusations were thrown openly, backed by pages from the Supreme Court ruling waved in the air. Shouts of resign rang out again and again, cutting through any attempt at formal debate. Even members of Starmer's own party refused to defend him. Some sat in silence, heads down. Others walked out entirely, unwilling to be seen, standing anywhere near the wreckage. The empty spaces on the front bench spoke louder than any speech. Leadership had vanished, and everyone knew it. Outside, the streets told the same story. Protest numbers surged by the hour. London filled with chants, sirens, and anger. Union flags waved alongside signs demanding accountability and justice. This wasn't a coordinated movement led by activists or unions. It was spontaneous, raw and emotional. Families, students, pensioners, workers, all standing together with the same message: enough. Roads were blocked, traffic stopped. Police struggled to contain crowds that weren't violent but were relentless. Similar scenes erupted across Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow and Bristol. Britain hadn't seen nationwide unrest like this in decades, and the cause wasn't economic hardship alone. It was a sense of moral collapse. The media, sensing blood in the water, turned ruthless. Front pages abandoned caution. Commentators who once urged patience now spoke of failure and disgrace. Even traditionally neutral outlets admitted the scale of the crisis was unprecedented. International headlines followed, questioning Britain's stability and leadership. Diplomatic sources quietly expressed concern about who was actually in charge. Markets reacted brutally. The pound slid further. Stocks dropped. Businesses delayed investment. Ordinary people felt the shock immediately as mortgage rates jumped and savings lost value. This wasn't an abstract political drama anymore. It was hitting homes, jobs and futures. Inside the Labour Party, the damage became terminal. Resignations stacked up, senior figures stepped down, citing irreversible harm to the party's credibility. Leaked memos revealed succession plans already underway, naming potential interim leaders preparing behind the scenes. Loyalty vanished overnight. Former allies erased public support, deleted photos, rewrote statements. It was political survival at its most brutal. Starmer, once presented as a symbol of stability and law, was now treated as a liability no one wanted to carry. And still, from the centre of it all, there was silence, no explanation, no apology, no attempt to face the country. That silence hardened public opinion. It transformed suspicion into certainty. Britain wasn't just witnessing the fall of a prime minister. It was watching the collapse of trust in the very system meant to protect it. The Supreme Court had exposed the truth, but what followed exposed something even deeper, a nation realising it could no longer rely on those in power to act with integrity. The crisis was no longer about Starmer alone. It had become a question hanging over the entire country. Who is actually in control and what happens next?